Welcome back to another celebration of the 50th anniversary of Title IX. I'm Jordan Griffith. Today, I'm joined by Director of Athletics from Queen's University of Charlotte, Cherie Swarthout. Thank you for joining me here today. How's the summer been transitioning to the Division I level here in the ASUN?
Well, I can tell you it's been exciting. No doubt about that. And it's been a fast and furious pace, and just so appreciative of the ASUN and, incorporating us right out of the gate. And that's been made for a smooth transition. And we've got a great staff and putting schedules together, getting ready for ESPN broadcasts. It's been a great experience so far.
Well, I can't wait to see Queens on ESPN Plus along with all the other ASUN teams, but we're here to talk about something a little bit bigger than just sports, Title IX. What does that mean to you? When you hear Title IX, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
I think opportunity and equity. I think those are probably the two key words. I was born in 69, so that shows my age a little bit, but I have always been blessed with some tremendous mentors along the way that really were pivotal in those conversations early on to get us to where we are today.
And being director of athletics, that's obviously a big role to have as a woman administrator. What was it like for you to get to that position? And what is it like for you to set the tone for the future generation that you can get to this spot that you're in now?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And I don't think I really realized the small percentage of women in AD roles across all divisions. I think it was around 20%. And so really leveraging that when I became the athletic director, also understanding with that role comes a tremendous responsibility and opportunity. And I think what we've done at Queens during my tenure is really be able to build out the opportunities for women in coaching, women in administration, female student athletes, and provide parity amongst all of our programs.
What can you tell me about the Yes and Promise?
Yeah, well, it's a university effort, and the way that we've embraced it in athletics, and specifically Queens athletics, is I really believe that you can do both well. You can do academics and athletics. You do not have to compromise one for the other. You can have parallel growth. And so when we set out to really absorb that into our culture in the athletic department, it was really about doing both well. And I think what you've seen since we've rolled that out with the Yes and Promise is that we've done both of those things very, very well and elevated and continue to elevate the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, you guys have continued to do that well, 10 straight years of having an average of 3.0 GPAs or higher. How is it exactly? I know people talk about it all the time, but how do you exactly set the tone to build a winning program in the classroom?
Yeah, well, I think you have to prioritize it. You have to reward it. You have to acknowledge it. It has to be the first thing that you talk about, and not just talk about it, but actually put the work in to show the student athletes how important and critical it is. We have outstanding faculty at Queens who they're so supportive of us in athletics and the student athlete experience. So that's a key piece. But we also know that we have to do our work. It doesn't come easy at Queens. We have 3 rules. We go to class, we communicate early and often, and we show up in a high quality way. And if we do those 3 things and we do them well, we're going to be successful. And that's what we've really pivoted on and drilled home. We also rolled out some new academic awards internally in the department that we celebrate. It's our first pillar when you walk into the gym and you start to walk around the walking track. It's the first thing you see. It's our 4.0 club. And the first year, I think we had 12 4.0s. Now we have 70 some. And that's a 4.0 for the whole year. And it's very, very competitive. Our coaches have bought in, very competitive with the team GPAs. Half of our programs have above a 3.5. So they're battling it out at that 3.7, 3.8 range continually.
You've been at Queens since 2006. How did you end up there, and what makes that place so special to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't think I would have predicted that I would have been here, 20 years ago. I was in college coaching after having played basketball at Michigan State and coached at Illinois State for 10 years and got out of coaching, got out of athletics. There was an opportunity to move to Charlotte, North Carolina, did so. And then the opportunity arose where I could get back into college athletics at an entry-level position as the first full-time sports information director. And having not been in Charlotte very long, and we often call ourselves the best kept secret, which is what we're trying to change at Queens. I honestly didn't know about Queens, but had met the president and the former president at one point and wondered if I would be interested. And so, the rest is history to a degree, but I started as the first full-time SID. I was the only other administrator in addition to our then athletic director, Jeannie King. And together, she and I, we grew, the department grew. I think we had about 200 student athletes. We have 650 now. We've just grown exponentially.
What was that like? A two-woman shop for an entire athletics program? Is that even possible?
Well, it's possible, and we did it, and we did it quite well. But we did grow. We had tremendous support from our administration and our board of trustees really early on. We're a young athletic department. We're not 32 years old as an co-ed intercollegiate athletic program, so not a lot of history there, but significant history and really important history. And it's a testament to the university leadership, what they saw athletics could be and how it could impact the overall university, and put some resources. And we just started growing. So I stayed in that position for 1 year. The second year, we created 2 assistant AD positions, and I moved into that for external operations. And we've just done nothing but grow since.
You mentioned a bit earlier about coaching at Illinois State, now moving into the administrative role. What was that transition like for you?
I think I always gravitated when I was at Illinois State to the administrative part of my job. It wasn't necessarily the recruiting that I liked. I did like the on-court coaching, but I really enjoyed the administrative pieces of that opportunity. And so for me, when I got to Queens, even as a sports information director, which is a very hard job, by the way, and I don't think I quite knew how hard until actually, investing myself in it. But I think that, that first year was just so important to me because it just felt like a glove being back in college athletics. And when you're continually surrounded by people who are highly motivated, passionate about what they do, and all they want to do is get better every single day, that's a winning opportunity.
What kind of coach were you? What were your coaching styles or philosophies?
Well, I will say that I had tremendous mentors growing up. I had a great high school coach, but just as importantly, and I mentioned some of my Title IX influence at Michigan State, I had absolutely outstanding leadership and coaches. I had the 3 coaches that I had were all women, all pioneers when it came to moving the needle for women in sport. So I'm not a I don't know, it's interesting to have to describe yourself, especially when you're describing your 25-year-old self. So I would say that I was very, very strong, very disciplined. I'm a very disciplined individual, probably a little bit too, rigid in my ways. I've definitely softened in that aspect, but just a lot of accountability. That's how I was taught. That's how I was trained. But also, compassionate off the court, building relationships, those pieces. But on the court, it's business.
Circling back to Title IX, how has Title IX made the world better since it's 50 years ago being established?
Well, there's so many layers to that. There's so many layers. I do, if we talk about just how it has impacted women in sport, I think that has been a really important piece to keep on the forefront of everything that we do. I think it's a check and balance system that allows us to make sure that we are really broadening our scope. whether it's hiring a coach, recruiting student athletes, providing resources, what lens are we looking through? And that lens is really important. I think it's really helped us define that lens that we look through.
My last question for you. Recently, we had the 50th anniversary of Title IX. We were able to reflect on those past 50 years. 50 years from now, what do you think the world will look like, or what do you think it should look like with Title IX in it? It's a tough one.
Another very good question, Jordan. Very good
Thank
question.
you.
I hope that we live in a world where if you take the NBA and the WNBA, that there's complete parity between those two. And there's just as many people wanting to support and engage with our WNBA players as they are with the NBA players, that there's more equity across those lines. And then with all the sports, right? Not just singling them out. I just use that as an example, but parity along those lines, that they're, little boys are looking up to women and little girls are looking up to men, and it just doesn't matter anymore. Sports figures and heroes and those folks that we look up to, that there is no gender barrier or bias in that realm.